The fundamentals of pitching. The baseball pitcher is often considered the key to a team's success or failure. He carries the greatest burden. In order to be a successful pitcher, one must first learn and master the proper execution of the many techniques of pitching. Following will be step-by-step explanations and illustrations to aid you in the execution of the proper delivery when throwing the fastball, the curveball, and the change of pace. The fastball. The first pitch to develop is the fastball. The success of a pitcher depends greatly on his fastball. The most common grip of the fastball for the overhand or three-quarter arm pitcher is with the index and middle fingers close together and across the wide seams of the baseball. The thumb is cocked and placed on the seam under the ball. If your fingers are short, you may hold the ball across the narrow two seams, again with the fingers close together and the thumb tucked under the ball. The sidearm pitcher should hold the ball along the two narrow seams. When released, the ball should move sideways and down. Some three-quarter arm pitchers have had good success with this grip also. Be sure that there is space between the palm and the ball to prevent choking the ball. When throwing a fastball with no runners on base or with a runner on third, the pitcher begins his wind-up delivery with his body facing home plate. There are two accepted ways to place the right foot on the pitching rubber. You may place your right foot with the front set of spikes over the front edge of the rubber and the toe pointed directly at home plate. From this position, the pitcher would have to turn his right foot parallel to the rubber during the coiling action in order to get a good push to home plate. The second choice is to place your right foot with the front spikes over the front edge of the rubber, but angled as much as 45 degrees towards the third base line. This position has the advantage of not having to move the foot during the coil because it is already in the push-off position. A right-hander should keep his foot on the right one-third of the rubber and the left-hander on the left third of the rubber. The rulebook dictates that the pitcher must take his sign from the catcher with his pivot foot in contact with the pitcher's plate and the ball in his pitching hand held either at his side or behind him. You should place the ball in your glove in such a way as to hide its position from the opposing hitter and coaches. You may choose either to place it with the back of your pitching hand toward your face, high in the web, and all of the ball covered. Or you may prefer to place your hand high near the webbing with the back of your hand against the web and the ball facing you. This second method gives a more natural move to cock your wrist before throwing. You are now ready to start your windup. The purpose of the windup or pump action is to loosen and relax the arm and shoulder muscles. It will help also develop the rhythm of your delivery and should aid in keeping the ball hidden. The action starts with the hand and ball in the glove and both arms swung up above the forehead. As your arms come up, your head and shoulders move slightly forward. Your head should never be behind the weight of your body. At the same time, the rear foot steps slightly backward. The body weight is slightly shifted to the back foot. If not already turned, then while raising the arms, the pivot foot is turned parallel to and in front of the rubber. To recap the action, the arms are swung over the forehead as the rear foot is moved slightly back and the head and shoulders are moved slightly forward. If necessary, the right foot is turned parallel to the rubber. The next major motion is the coil or pivot. This is the rotation of the body clockwise and back to gather the power for the delivery. If your pivot is not executed properly, you are apt to be throwing with just your arm and without good balance. Begin by lifting the left or rear foot off the ground until the thigh is parallel to the ground and the knee is bent. This leg is then turned to the right as if you are winding up a spring. At this point, your belt buckle is facing third base, your back and your left shoulder facing home, and your left hip pocket is facing the batter. All of your weight is on your right leg. As the left leg is being lifted and turned, the right leg or pivot leg was bent down and forward in order to support the body weight. As the pivot is near completion, the pitching arm is thrust downward with the back of the hand and the ball facing the ground. Your head and shoulders should still be forward, never behind the pitching rubber. Balance is a key point, and the body weight must stay over the pivot leg. Let us summarize the coil movements. The left leg is lifted and swung toward third base. The right leg is bent slightly forward and down. The arms are brought down to the chest, and the pitching arm is thrust down. The head is slightly forward with both eyes on the target. At this point, you pause for a fraction of a second before uncoiling. This pause will aid in getting everything going forward into the pitch. The back or pivot leg is driven towards the ground as your striding leg comes down. Check for the following points. First, the toe of your striding foot should point directly at your target. Second, your foot should land on the ball of the foot first, not on your heel. If you land on your heel, you are overstriding and losing some of your power. The third point to check for is to have your striding foot land in the same spot on every pitch. This will aid in your control and also keep you from overstriding. As your legs start the uncoiling action, the pitching arm begins its arc toward the plate. To recap, the right leg pushes off, the left leg steps forward at the target, landing on the ball of the foot, and the left shoulder is driven towards home plate. Prior to releasing the fastball, the pitching hand is parallel to the ground and the ball is skyward. The arm and wrist should be loose and relaxed as the ball is released and the wrist is snapped down. Follow-through is a necessity. As in most skills, it should be thought of as a natural culmination to a series of correct techniques in the delivery. Your pitching arm should finish up near or outside of the knee of your striding leg. The palm is facing up towards the body. Your back foot, which pushed off from the rubber, is carried, not dragged, to a position opposite the striding leg and comfortably to the side. Now that the pitcher has recovered his balance, he should immediately bring his glove to his chest and be ready to feel the ball hit to him. The set position is used whenever a base runner has at least one unoccupied base ahead of him, or when there is a possibility of the runners going on the pitch. The pitcher stands perpendicular to home plate with his front shoulder towards home plate. There are two ways the foot can be positioned on the rubber. One is with the right foot against the front of the rubber and parallel to it. The second is with the foot at a 45-degree angle with the cleats over the front edge of the rubber. This position gives the pitcher a more open angle to first base. The feet are comfortably spread with the weight evenly balanced on each foot. Be sure the head is positioned so that you can see the runner on first base out of the corner of your eye. Instead of the windup described earlier, the pitcher uses a shortened version called the stretch. The most common is for the pitcher to extend his arms overhead and bring them slowly to the belt. The second is simply bring the glove and hand together at the belt. The pitcher must pause before delivering the pitch. Your push-off and other techniques of the delivery are the same as for the windup, but instead of a pivot, the pitcher must lift his foot and move it forward quickly. You cannot take the big pivot and high knee kick because it gives the runner a greater lead. The curveball. The fastball is thought of as the most important of the basic pitches, but to make it more effective, the pitcher should have a good curveball. A good curve will help throw the hitter off stride and make the fastball look faster. The curveball is the pitch which breaks down over the plate. A good curve breaks as if it fell off a table. The grip of the curveball will be determined partly by what is most comfortable and successful for you. Most pitchers prefer that the middle finger rest on a seam. The ball should be gripped well out in the fingers. held loosely but firmly with the most pressure from the middle finger. In the delivery of the curveball, the action is the same as that used for the fastball until the ball comes up behind the ear. At this point, the curveball is turned in towards the pitcher's head. There are some differences in the stride used for the curves. First, your striding leg is planted before releasing the ball. Second, the stride is shorter when throwing the curve. This helps the pitcher to get on top of the ball and helps the downward rotation of the ball. At this point, the elbow must be up and the hand turned in at a right angle towards the ear. Some pitchers make the mistake at this point of having the wrist and ball too high and outside of the elbow instead of close to the ear. At this point, the hand is rotated so that the back of the hand is thrown at the hitter. The ball is released over the first joint of the index finger, and the index and middle finger end up under the ball and the thumb on top. The arm action directly following the release of the curveball needs to be performed properly to ensure proper rotation. The right arm is pulled down and near the left knee with the palm and forearm facing up. The right shoulder is pointing to the target. The change of pace. The change of pace or changeup is a necessary pitch because it can upset the timing of the hitter. The key point when throwing the changeup is that it must look like a fastball as it comes to the plate. To achieve this, the pitcher has to use the same body and arm motions as he does for the fastball. The ball is held back in the hand so that there is no space between the ball and the palm of the hand. The pitching hand grips the ball as if the index and middle fingers are cut off at the middle joint. The fingertips do not contact the seams, and the pressure on the ball is at the knuckle joints. The ball is delivered with the same motion as the fastball, except that the wrist is stiff and the heel of the hand comes down first. Pull down on the ball like pulling a window shade down. The ball is released low and slow. In the stride for the changeup, the back foot is on the rubber when releasing the ball. Also, the stride is lengthened to cut down on the power behind the ball. Mechanical errors that affect pitching performance. There are certain mechanical errors that can affect the pitching performance. Check yourself for these mistakes. Some pitchers confuse the fact that they must be in contact with the rubber by putting their pivot foot completely on top of the rubber. This will cause a reduction in power and a lack of balance during their delivery. Another error that will cause poor pitching is overstriding. When a pitcher takes a stride that is not normal, the result can be observed when the striding foot lands heel first instead of on the ball of the foot first. Another common fault that will affect control is taking your eye off the target while in the pitching motion. The eye should be kept on the target throughout the entire motion. Throwing across the body is another pitching error that causes loss of power and control. This can be remedied by stepping at the target with the striding foot. Action shots of professionals in game situations show the fundamental techniques in practice. Take your sign from the catcher with your pivot foot in contact with the rubber and the ball in your pitching hand at your side or behind you. Begin your windup with a relaxed arm swing. At the top of your pump, the ball is hidden in your glove. Your head is forward and your pivot foot is ready to push off the rubber. In your coil, the right leg is bent, your belt buckle is facing third base, the hip and shoulders are facing home, and your head is over your body. With a proper coil, your body is perfectly balanced over your right leg just before uncoiling. Uncoil by pushing hard off the rubber with your right leg. Your left leg strides directly at home plate, landing on the ball of your foot first. After releasing the ball, your pitching arm continues to the outside of your striding leg. Your pushing leg is lifted off the rubber and never dragged. Every professional pitcher at one time had no knowledge of pitching fundamentals, but through hard work and practice of these basic skills, he has earned the privilege of playing in Major League Baseball. Special thanks goes to the California Angels for their help and cooperation in the preparation of these pictures. Thank you.